We are continuing in our series on From Creation to Christ. We're coming up to the end. We've only got a few more left of this series. And today we're going to be looking at Jesus is condemned. And we're going to be looking at it in Matthew's Gospel. And so let me just read to you from Matthew 26, starting from verse 57. Then those who had seized Jesus led him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had gathered. And Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest, and going inside he sat with the guards to see the end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were seeking false testimony against Jesus, that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last, two came forward and said, "This man said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to rebuild it in 3 days.'" And the high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer to make? What is it that these men testify against you?" But Jesus remained silent. And the high priest said to him, "I adjure you by the living God, tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has uttered blasphemy. What further witnesses do we need? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your judgment?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spit in his face and struck him. And some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Christ. Who is it that struck you?" Jumping down to chapter 27. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate, the governor. And jump down to verse 11. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You have said so." But when he was accused by chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to releasing for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted. And they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Who do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered much because of him today in a dream." Now the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They all said, "Let him be crucified." And he said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." And all the people answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. We want to look at these verses today, and I want to take away from these two key truths for us, is that Jesus was falsely accused and he was numbered among sinners. And before I do, I just want to tell you a story of the Dreyfus affair that happened at the turn of the 20th century. This is a story set in Paris in 1894, in a room probably thick with the smell of cigars and the heavy weight of polished brass. A group of generals sit at a table, their chests heavy with medals, and they have a crisis. A leak has been found in the Ministry of Defense. They found a scrap of paper in the German embassy with a list of military secrets, proving that someone was selling the country's secret to the Germans. But they didn't have a suspect. The army needed a scapegoat, and Captain Alfred Dreyfus was a perfect candidate. Why? Not because of evidence, but because of identity. He was a Jew in an era of rising anti-Semitism. In that moment, the search for truth had ended, and the machinery of convenience began. The leaders didn't look for a culprit. They looked for a fit, and Dreyfus was quite the brilliant fit. To the military elite, steeped in old world prejudice, he was a foreigner in their midst. He was a perfect villain for the story they wanted to tell the public. The trial was not an inquiry, it was an execution of character. The leaders had a conclusion, and they used a rising tide of prejudice to cement it. When the handwriting in the incriminating note didn't actually match Dreyfus, the investigation didn't stop at all. They leaned on the